Raj, I just read your thing. A little bit hard for me to deal with this kind of a communication but I will do. Your communication about your belief, along with many of your European friends, that Russia was and will, it was a little bit not clear, and I think there was an error. I don't know if you're speaking into the thing or whatever. Ill motivated evil or evil motivated presence in the all reaping havoc in the world, and will continue to be, if I've understood this correctly. Well, first of all, you're talking to a man who very clearly separates this world, Russia, from this phenomenon that you're describing. So I do not see Russia as that, but I may see whoever's leading Russia as being capable, and whoever has led Russia. And this is not a semantical conflict, but just something that needs to be clear when we communicate, because Russia is a country with a history and a folklore, etc. And reaping havoc on Europe, or the troublesome nature of communism, of course, in my mind, is very distinctly separated from this word Russia. So I do want to address that, because that conversation would not fly with any Russian person that I know. And it also does not fly with me. It just is a gross error, along with the type of thing that some Persian would say about America, which would be very wrong. But he will erroneously associate weird political actions that have affected his life as America. And you and I don't think of America that way, yet the politics of America are causing those conversations. So first, I want to get on the right page about how we're going to communicate. So I do not agree with that, what you said. Now, do I agree, along with some of your European friends, that it is possible that the policies which the leaders of Russia will continue to enact on Europe or the Ukraine potentially cause difficulty for you if you're going to move there and start some mission? Of course, yes, I can say that. But this immediately brings me to another topic or comment, which is, as you claim, your motive for wanting to begin something in the Ukraine is something that God has stimulated within you. I guess my argument would be, so then who cares what Russia has to do with that? Because if you're following God, then I would say that the problems which come, or that may come, from you being in the Ukraine is an issue between you and God. And Russia sort of has nothing to do with it. But of course, 20 years later, after all kind of upheaval or all kind of success could come from your life, and then you write this or think about it, you will have these issues to draw from, like how you thought about both those issues prior. Because, for instance, in my case, I did not consider Russia's behavior in the past when I decided to move to Russia. I believed that this was something God would not mind, and that he would probably be supportive of me if I went. And if he wasn't, I was prepared for the consequences. And I also would have to say, if the whole thing went sideways, I believe I was mature enough not to have any issue with God about this. But this is also in connection with my idea that since God has already described in the Bible what he wants Christians to do, I'm less interested about where they implement that. And, in our past, there were these issues such as perfect will or permissive will and things like that. And not, Sabina Wernberg, why are the Americans asking what is the will of God when it is clearly written in the Bible? Okay, so this is a very big and serious question that has cleared up a lot for me. And I think some of us might be coming out of a sort of a hyper-spiritual way of perceiving things into just a more commonsensical one. So, if you want some physical or psychological rehabilitation of Ukrainian people, and you're quitting your job in order to do so, I mean, I'm a little bit surprised that anything I have to say might help, but let's just say it does. So, of course, as long as Vladimir Putin or anybody is sitting in Russia has power, they're going to do exactly what they want. And all we have to do is read a little history, and I'm not going to be able to teach you about that because you already know as much as I know about that. How this exactly relates to you being in the Ukraine, time can only tell. If there's any comparability in this, one might think of World War II, what was going on, and what was happening with, let's say, those who desired to help prior to the war or during the war. And Jadwiga's mother had successfully brought a lot, I think they were 10 or 20 truckloads of clothing and food and all that during the difficult time in Poland from France, and got it all the way through. And the great victory was not even that someone thought about this or was interested in helping their neighbor or was even capable of organizing that and getting it that far, but that it actually got distributed. And this, I say, is praise to the tenacity of Jadwiga's mother. And I think if this shoe fits, you should wear it. I think that if you want to help in the Ukraine, I would say go, and I would not think very much about all these other things. And if the Russians want you out, they'll throw you out. And if the Russians want you arrested, you'll be arrested. And in the meantime, maybe none of that happens. So this is my advice. If I've understood you correctly, I would not take very much consideration into it about Russia, what Russia may or may not do, simply because I'm going to assume that your activity there is non-political. Now, Putin has people in jail, these oligarchs, because, and if the interview is right, the one that I watched, it was very simple. And he said, I'm not against his thinking in a way. I mean, as weird as that sounds. He said, as long as you don't get political, you can make as much money as you want. And they did. And then they got a lot of money, and then they became political. So he put them in jail. So I don't see much of a problem with that unless I'm somehow actually believing that democracy is a real thing in Russia. So these are the points off the cuff of my head, having read your thing. So maybe this is helpful.